I want you to picture the last time you booked a relaxing, all-inclusive resort vacation. You saw the glossy photos on the website, turquoise water, white sand, a couple clinking champagne glasses without a care in the world. You thought, that's it, that's what I've worked 40 years for. You clicked book, and you spent thousands of your hard-earned retirement dollars. Now I want you to picture the reality. The 4 a.m. wake-up call for the flight, the stress of TSA, the cramped 6-hour flight, and then you landed. Did the relaxation start there? No. You fought through a chaotic foreign immigration hall. You dragged your bags past a gauntlet of aggressive taxi drivers and timeshare salespeople. You finally found your shuttle, a beat-up van with questionable brakes, for a white-knuckle 90-minute drive down a dark highway to the hotel gate. By the time you got to that lobby to check in, your blood pressure was through the roof, your back was screaming, and you were exhausted. And then you spent the next week realizing that your all-inclusive wristband was actually a plastic handcuff. It didn't include the good gin, it didn't include the steakhouse restaurant, it didn't include a beach chair that wasn't broken. You didn't book a vacation, you booked a part-time job as a logistics manager, a security guard for your own belongings, and an accountant trying to figure out why you were still bleeding money every time you left your room. I've been a flight attendant for 15 years. I watch you board my plane on the way to these vacations full of hope. And I watch you drag yourselves back onto my plane on the way home, looking more tired than when you left. There is a reason you rarely see flight crews vacationing at the same resorts we fly you to. We know too much. We are masters of travel logistics, and we refuse to work that hard on our own time. When we take our uniforms off, the smartest travelers in the aviation industry aren't heading to the shore. We are heading to the ship. If you stick with me until the end of this video, I am going to share the crew protocol for true relaxation. I'm going to explain the deep, psychological, and safety-related reasons why we prefer cruises over resorts, and why, especially if you are in your 60s or 70s, it is the only sane choice for your next vacation. It's time to stop falling for the resort mirage. Hi everyone, I'm Sophia. Welcome back to the galley. For those who are new here, I've spent the last decade and a half flying international and domestic routes for a major carrier. I spend about 150 nights a year sleeping in hotels. From 5-star properties in Tokyo to sketchy airport motels in Ohio, I have seen it all. To me, a resort is just a fancy hotel with a beach that I had to take another stressful flight and a dangerous taxi ride to get to. It's just another room I have to security check, another bed that isn't mine, and another place where I have to keep my guard up. I consider myself your guardian in the galley. When I see my older passengers, the folks who remind me of my own parents, I feel protective. I don't want you wasting the retirement money you worked so hard for on stress disguised as a margarita. I'm here to tell you the truths that the travel agents and the glossy brochures won't. Let's get into why the crew chooses to cruise. The first and biggest reason we avoid resorts is something we call the last mile trauma. Travel is stressful, we all know that. But the flight is actually the easiest, safest part. You are in a controlled environment, highly regulated, with trained professionals, that's me, watching over you. The danger zone, the point of maximum vulnerability, especially for senior travelers, is what happens the second you step off that plane in a foreign country. Here's the secret the airlines don't tell you. The moment you walk off that jet bridge, our duty of care ends. You are on your own. You are now navigating a foreign airport, often tired, maybe dehydrated, and suffering from arrival fatigue. Your cognitive defenses are down. You are dragging heavy luggage, and you have to get from the airport to the resort. This last mile is where the scams happen. It's where the theft happens. It's where the physical injuries happen. In many popular resort destinations, Mexico, the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, the taxi and shuttle industries are, to put it politely, loosely regulated. If you haven't pre-booked a highly reputable private transfer, which costs a fortune, you are walking into a shark tank of aggressive drivers charging predatory rates, driving vehicles that would never pass a safety inspection in the US or UK, on roads that are dark and unfamiliar. I will never forget a sweet older couple I flew down to Cancun a few years ago. It was their first trip in years. They were so excited. I saw them on the return flight a week later. They looked shell-shocked. They told me that when they landed, the shuttle company they had prepaid online was nowhere to be found. After 2 hours of frantic phone calls with no answer, they were approached by a helpful man who offered them a ride for $150 cash. They were desperate, so they took it. He drove them halfway to the resort, pulled over on a dark highway shoulder, and demanded another $200 to finish the trip, threatening to leave them there with their bags if they didn't pay. They paid. They arrived at their relaxing resort 4 hours late, lighter by $350, and completely traumatized. Their vacation was ruined before it began. Compare that to a cruise. When you land in Fort Lauderdale or Miami to catch a ship, you walk outside to a regulated American airport curb. You hop on a pre-booked cruise line motor coach with a professional driver, or a quick regulated Uber or Lyft. It is a 20-minute low-stress ride on paved highway directly to the terminal where porters take your bags. The difference in stress levels on day one is night and day. We refuse to subject ourselves to the last-mile trauma. Why should you? The second reason we choose ships over shores is because we hate the lies. And the biggest lie in the travel industry is the phrase all-inclusive resort. Unless you are spending $2,000 a night at an ultra-luxury boutique property, all-inclusive is a marketing trick designed to get you in the door, only to make you feel like a second-class citizen on your own vacation. We call it the wristband caste system. You book the resort because the price looks good. You arrive, and they slap a plastic wristband on you. Let's say it's yellow. You walk to the beach. You see a beautiful section of padded lounge chairs with umbrellas. You go to sit down. A security guard stops you. Sorry, yellow band. Those chairs are for the Diamond Club blue bands only. Your chairs are the plastic slats down by the volleyball net. You go to the bar for a drink. You ask for a Tanqueray and tonic. The bartender points to your yellow band. Sorry, yellow band gets the local Welgian. Tanqueray is $12 extra or for blue bands only. You try to make a dinner reservation at the nice steakhouse on the property. Sorry, fully booked by the preferred guests months ago. The buffet is open. The entire psychology of the modern resort is built on creating friction for the basic guest, designed to frustrate you into spending hundreds or thousands more on upgrades just to get a decent experience. It breeds resentment. You spend your whole vacation looking at what you can't have. I learned this the hard way. Years ago, I used my airline discount to book a highly rated 5-star resort in Punta Cana. Because I booked on a discount rate, I got the lowest tier wristband. I'm a coffee snob. I need good coffee to function. I went to the lobby coffee bar on the first morning. There was a beautiful espresso machine. I asked for a latte. The barista looked at my wristband and literally pointed to a lukewarm carafe of drip coffee sitting on a burner. Machine is for VIP. I felt about 2 inches tall. I spent the rest of that week feeling like I was sneaking around, trying to get decent service. It was humiliating, and it was absolutely not relaxing. Now, compare that to a cruise. Yes, cruises have suites and special areas, but for 90% of the ship, everyone is equal. When you walk into the main dining room on a cruise ship, the waiter doesn't look at your wristband before deciding if he's going to give you good service. The food is the same high quality for everyone. The entertainment in the main theater is open to everyone. The pool deck is for everyone. Cruising is far more democratic. You know what you paid for, and you get what you paid for without the constant psychological games. This third secret is deeply personal to Flight Crews, but it resonates hugely with anyone over 50. We have what I call a suitcase trauma response. I live out of a 22-inch rollerboard. Every day I am at work, I am packing it up in the morning, dragging it through airports, unpacking it at night in a hotel, only to do it all again the next day. To my brain, an open suitcase on a luggage rack means work. It means unsettled. It means anxiety. If I go on a land vacation that involves moving around, say a tour of Italy where you stay in Rome for 2 days, then Florence for 2 days, then Venice for 2 days, that is not a vacation to me. That is just a different version of my job. The mental load of constantly inventorying your belongings. Did I pack my charger? Where are my meds? Did I leave anything in the hotel safe? Prevents deep psychological rest. For my older passengers, this is even more critical. The physical strain of hauling luggage every few days is hard on joints, but the biggest risk is medical anxiety. When you are constantly repacking, the risk of leaving something essential behind skyrockets. I had a medical emergency on a flight home from Europe once. An older woman began having heart palpitations and severe anxiety mid-flight. We got her on oxygen, and her husband explained what happened. They had been on a whirlwind three-city land tour. In the rush to pack up and catch the train from Paris to London that morning, she had left her small bag of daily heart medications and anti-anxiety pills in the hotel room safe. She didn't realize it until they were over the Atlantic Ocean. The sheer panic of realizing she didn't have her life-sustaining meds triggered the event. We had to have paramedics meet the plane. It was terrifying for them. This is why we cruise. On day one, my suitcase gets delivered to my cabin. I open it. I hang my clothes in the closet. I put my toiletries in the bathroom cabinet. I put my empty suitcase under the bed. And I do not touch that suitcase again for 7 days. My cabin is my home base. I wake up in a new country every morning, but my bed, my pillows, my chargers, and my medicines are exactly where I left them the night before. The psychological relief of that stability, the ability to truly exhale and settle in, is the definition of vacation for a flight attendant. And I believe it should be for you too. If you hear nothing else in this entire video, I need you to hear this point. If you are over 55, if you have any pre-existing conditions, high blood pressure, diabetes, a history of heart issues, this is the single most critical reason to choose a ship over a shore resort. We need to have a brutally honest conversation about medical care in paradise. When you are sitting in your travel agent's office looking at pictures of a resort in a remote part of the Caribbean or Mexico, you are thinking about the beach. As flight attendants, we are thinking, where is the nearest defibrillator? What is the response time for an ambulance? Is the local hospital accredited? Here is the terrifying truth. Most resort doctors are not what you think they are. Many resorts advertise an on-site clinic. In many developing nations, these are often staffed by junior contractors who may not speak fluent English, working with extremely limited equipment, think Band-Aids and ibuprofen. They are there to treat a jellyfish sting or a hangover. They are absolutely not equipped to handle a stroke, a cardiac arrest, or a complex diabetic emergency. If you have a major medical event at a remote resort, you are at the mercy of the local infrastructure. You might be waiting an hour for an ambulance that is essentially a van with a stretcher. You will be taken to a local clinic that may not meet US or UK standards of hygiene or technology. And if you need real help, you are looking at a medical evacuation flight back to the States. Do you know how much that costs? It starts at about $50,000 and goes up to $200,000 cash up front if you don't have specific medical evacuation insurance. It is financial and physical ruin waiting to happen. I worked a flight out of Montego Bay a few years ago. We had a passenger pre-boarded in a wheelchair looking absolutely gray. Her husband was frantic. He told me she had started slurring her words and having weakness on her left side 2 days prior at their resort. They went to the resort doctor. The doctor gave her some aspirin, told her it was likely dehydration from the sun, and told her to rest in the room. They spent 48 hours in their room while she got progressively worse. They finally just got on the plane to come home. As a flight attendant trained in first aid, I took one look at her and knew I was looking at a stroke victim outside the window for effective treatment. We had medical personnel meet the flight upon landing in the US, but those 2 wasted days at the resort likely caused permanent, irreversible damage. Now, look at a modern cruise ship. A major cruise ship, think Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, Holland America, is essentially a floating, accredited urgent care center operating under strict international maritime laws. The medical centers on board are staffed by credentialed doctors and nurses, often trained in emergency medicine in Western countries. They are equipped with X-ray machines, full labs for blood work, cardiac monitors, defibrillators, ventilators, and a stocked pharmacy of intravenous drugs and antibiotics. If you have a heart attack on a cruise ship, you can be stabilized in a near-hospital setting within minutes. Furthermore, the ship itself is mobile. If you are critical, the captain will speed toward the nearest port with a major hospital or arrange for a Coast Guard helicopter evacuation if within range. When I am on a ship, I sleep soundly, knowing that if something happens to me or my parents, professional regulated help is 3 decks down. At a remote resort, you are gambling with your life. This next secret is an open secret in the hospitality industry since 2020, but nobody talks about it to the guests. The post-pandemic world has seen a catastrophic staffing crisis in hotels and resorts globally. Resorts are land-based businesses, often operating in economies with high labor turnover. They are struggling desperately to find and keep staff. What does this mean for you? It means the person cleaning your room, cooking your food, or watching the pool might have been hired yesterday with zero training. They are often overworked, underpaid, and burnt out. This leads to staffing roulette. Will your room actually be clean? Will the food be safe? Will the service be friendly? It's a gamble. For me, a vacation means not having to manage anyone. At a resort these days, I find myself constantly having to manage the staff, asking 3 times for towels, sending back undercooked chicken, waiting 45 minutes for a drink because there is one bartender for 200 people. That anxiety of, will it be right, prevents relaxation. I did a layover at a very famous, very expensive beach resort in Florida last year. It was a disaster. I arrived at my room at 6 p.m. It hadn't been cleaned from the previous guest. Beds unmade, towels on the floor. I called the front desk, no answer for 20 minutes. I walked down to the lobby. There was a line of 10 angry people. The poor front desk clerk was crying. They had 2 housekeepers for a 400-room hotel that day. I ended up waiting 3 hours in the lobby for a clean room. I spent my relaxing evenings sitting on a hard bench, furious. Now let's look at a cruise ship. Cruise staffing is a completely different world. Crew members on ships sign contracts for 6 to 9 months. They work under rigid international labor laws. Their training is intensive and standardized because, on a ship, safety is paramount. The guy serving your dinner is also trained in firefighting and crowd control. More importantly, the culture is different. Their livelihood depends on guest satisfaction scores in a way land-based jobs don't. The service culture on a ship is anticipatory. My cabin steward knows my name by the second time he sees me. The bartender knows my drink. When I go on vacation, I want to feel taken care of, not like I'm burdening an overworked college kid on spring break. I trust the professionalism of a ship's crew infinitely more than the transient staff at a resort right now. Let's talk about safety, physical safety. When you arrive at a resort, you see a gate with a guard, maybe a fence. You feel secure. You are suffering from an illusion of security. A resort is land-based. It has a porous perimeter. Think about the beach. In almost every country, beaches are public property up to the high tide line. A resort cannot legally fence off the ocean. This means anyone, absolutely anyone, can walk down the beach from the public town and right up to your lounge chair. Vendor, thief, predator, there is no physical barrier stopping them. I have spent 15 years doing layovers in hotels. Do you know what the first thing every single flight attendant does when they enter a hotel room? We do the sweep. We prop the door open with our luggage, we check the closet, we check under the bed, we check behind the shower curtain, we check that the window locks work, we put the deadbolt on and then hang a hanger on the door handle so it will clatter if someone tries to open it in the night. We do this because we know that hotel security is often security theater, and that key cards get cloned, and that ground floor patio doors are easily jimmied open. I cannot relax if my subconscious brain is running a constant threat assessment. I have a close friend, another flight attendant, who was on a layover in a beautiful, reputable resort in the Caribbean. She was relaxing by the pool. She went back to her ground floor room to change. She didn't realize she had been followed from the public beach area by a man who was not a guest. As she was unlocking her door, he pushed her inside. She fought like hell and screamed, and luckily a maintenance worker nearby heard her and scared him off. But that was it for her. She will never stay in a ground floor resort room again. The idea that anyone could just walk onto the property was terrifying. A cruise ship is a floating fortress. It is the most secure environment you can vacation in. To get onto a ship, you have to pass through a port terminal with security that rivals an airport, metal detectors, X-ray machines for bags, ID checks against government manifests. Once you are on board, there is one way on and one way off, the gangway, which is manned 24/7 by armed security officers who scan your photo ID card every single time you cross it. Nobody is walking up the side of a cruise ship from the beach. When I am in my cabin on a ship, I double lock the door and I sleep the deepest sleep of my life. I know with 100% certainty that the only people on that vessel are crew, screened passengers, and security. That peace of mind is priceless. In aviation, we have a saying, always have an out. We never paint ourselves into a corner. We always have an alternate airport, spare fuel, a backup plan. We hate being trapped. A resort is the ultimate trap. You spend thousands of dollars. You fly to the location, you unpack, you are there for a week. What happens if a tropical depression parks itself over the island and it rains for 5 days straight? What happens if the resort next door starts noisy construction with jackhammers at 7 a.m. every morning? What happens if a nasty norovirus outbreak sweeps through the hotel kitchen? You are stuck. You have no options. You are held hostage in a damp hotel room, watching your expensive vacation days tick away while watching Netflix on an iPad. There is nothing more depressing than wasting thousands of dollars on a beach vacation where you never saw the sun. It feels like lighting money on fire. I flew a plane load of passengers home from a popular Mexican resort hub a few Octobers ago. It had been a very active hurricane season. The vibe on that plane was funeral. They had spent the entire week trapped inside their hotels because of torrential, nonstop rain and wind from a nearby tropical storm. They were miserable. They felt cheated. They were sunburned only in their imaginations. I was chatting with the pilot up front. He told me, yeah, my buddy is a captain for Carnival. He said they saw that system coming 3 days ago. They just turned the ship east, did a sea day instead of a port day, and found gorgeous sunny weather near the Bahamas. His passengers didn't see a drop of rain. A cruise ship has engines. It can move. This is the ultimate insurance policy against bad weather. Modern cruise ships have incredibly sophisticated weather tracking technology. If a hurricane or tropical storm is threatening their route, the captain does not sail into it. They reroute. They change the itinerary. They might swap a port day for a sea day, or go to a completely different island. Yes, you might miss a specific port you wanted to see, but you know what you won't miss? The sunshine. You won't spend your vacation trapped in a room. The ship will actively hunt for good weather. For me, knowing that my vacation isn't at the mercy of a stationary weather pattern is the ultimate freedom. Finally, let's talk about money. My audience in the 55-75 plus bracket is value conscious. You have a nest egg and you want to protect it. On the surface, a resort package often looks cheaper than a cruise. You see a price of $2,500 a person for a week and think, that's a deal. You are falling for the resort bubble pricing trap. A resort is a captive environment. Once they get you on the property, they have a monopoly on your wallet, and the all-inclusive price rarely includes the things that make a vacation memorable. Let's break down the hidden costs of a cheap resort week, the transport tax. Want to leave the resort to go into town for shopping or dinner? That's a $40 taxi ride each way, often in cash with a driver you don't know. The excursion markup. Want to go snorkeling, ziplining, or see Maya ruins? If you book through the resort's desk, you are paying a massive markup, often double the actual price, because the resort takes a huge commission. The dining trap. As we discussed, the included food is often mediocre buffet fare. One nice steak dinner at the on-site restaurant not included in your wristband tier, that's $150 for 2 people. The entertainment void. What do you do at night? A resort might have a cheesy poolside band for an hour. If you want real entertainment, you have to leave the property and pay for it. By the end of the week, your $3,000 couple's vacation has ballooned to $5,000, and you spent half the time stressed about money. Cruising offers what I call value density. It is the most efficient way to spend a travel dollar. Yes, the sticker price might be higher. Let's say it's $2,500 a person. But look at what that buys you. It is your transportation to 3 or 4 different countries. It is your boutique hotel room that moves with you. It is high-quality, multi-course dining in the main dining room every single night. It is Broadway-caliber entertainment, comedy clubs, and live music venues all included. When I book a cruise for my parents, I can prepay the gratuities, buy a drink package, and book a couple of shore excursions before they ever leave home. I know, down to the penny, what that trip is going to cost them. For someone on a fixed retirement income, that predictability is priceless. The psychological peace of mind of knowing you won't be hit with surprise costs every time you turn around allows you to actually relax. Don't look at the sticker price. Look at the final bill. The cruise wins almost every time. I know I've thrown a lot of hard truths at you today. It's a lot to process, especially if you've been a loyal resort goer for years. But I want to hear from you. Be honest with me down in the comments. Have you ever felt trapped at a resort you paid thousands for, unable to leave because of weather or fear of the local area? Or have you experienced that nickel and dime wristband culture where you felt like a second-class citizen on your own trip? Tell me your worst resort story versus your best cruise moment. Let's compare notes. Look, I know change is hard. If you've always gone to the same resort in Cancun for 20 years, the idea of getting on a ship might seem daunting. But I want you to take a step back and look at where you are in life. You have worked hard for 40 or 50 years. You raised families, built careers, weathered storms, and saved your money. This chapter of your life, your retirement, is your reward. It should not be hard work. You have earned the right to stop being the logistics manager. You have earned the right to stop being your own security guard. You have earned the right to stop worrying about whether the shuttle will show up or if the food is safe to eat. Stop working so hard on your vacation. Let the captain do the driving. Let the professional, regulated crew do the cooking and cleaning. Let the ship do the moving. When you step onto a cruise ship, you are stepping into a bubble of safety, predictability, and anticipatory service that simply doesn't exist on land anymore. You have earned the right to just be, to sit on a balcony with a cup of coffee and watch the ocean go by, knowing that everything is taken care of. Please, for your own peace of mind, your physical safety, and your financial health, stop falling for the resort mirage. Come join the crew on the ship. We know where the real vacation is. If you found this helpful, please subscribe to my channel. I have so many more secrets from the galley to share with you to make your travels safer, cheaper, and happier. Safe travels, everyone. I'll see you on the Lido deck.